Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to my YouTube channel. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to the family. Let's get right into this tutorial. For this, I am going to be using a satin fabric. You can use any satin fabric of your choice. And I am also going to be using a stretchy fabric. I'm using a poly fabric. I'll need my chalk. I would also need my rule, very important. I would also be needing a pair of scissors, and also I'll be using what is called a millinery wire. So I'm using the thin one. I am aware that they are of different kinds, so this is the very thin and light one. And of course I'm using crinoline also. So you get these things where they sell things for fascinators and hat making. Now I have my band cut out already. The band for my turban, I have it cut out already, and the measurement is 23 inches by 4 inches. So the length is 23 inches while the width is 4 inches. I'm going to keep this aside. Please, guys, feel free to work with whichever head circumference it is you're working with. So for me, I'm working with a head circumference of 23 inches. So now I am just going to go straight to the main body of my turban. Now this is just a demo because I have already sewn my turban. So I'm just using this fabric to illustrate how I did it, how I was able to make my turban. So this is not exactly 25 inches, but the measurement for this turban is 25 inches by 25 inches. So once you cut out 25 inches by 25 inches like this, the next thing you want to do is place your ruler on your fabric. Once you place your ruler on your fabric, you are going to be marking 1 inch at both ends, just like this. 1 inch here and 1 inch at the tail end of your fabric, like this. So when you mark it, you are going to connect the lines together. Now this 1 inch, I choose to work with 1 inch. You can work with 1.5 inch. You can work with 2 inches. Sorry. You can work with 1.5 inches or 2 inches, depending on what you would love to work with. So I'm working with 1 inch, and then I just realized that my ruler is 1 inch and one point 1 inch or so. So I'm just going to be making use of my rule. I wouldn't be needing to do all that measurements of 1 inch all the way down. So I'm just going to be placing my rule beneath the lines like this, and I'm going to rule till the end, just how you can see. I'm going to be making straight lines on my fabric till I get to the very end of my fabric, like this. So as you can see now, I am done, and this is what we have. I'm done making straight lines on my fabrics. On my fabric, I beg your pardon. The next thing I want to do is sew on the lines, just like this. So I'm just going to sew individually on these lines till I get to the end. I'm going to pick it up one by one, fold and sew on the lines, and take the second one, sew on the lines until I am done. Now I am done. I am done sewing on the lines. As you can see, this is what we have. This is what the inner part looks like, the back actually. So this is what it looks like. Look at the lines. And this is what the front of the fabric looks like. As you can see, we have created that fold that we want. The next thing I want to do now is take my band. Remember, we cut the band into 4 inches. I'm going to fold it into two, like this. Fold the band into two this way. And the next thing I'm going to do is also fold my fabric into two this way. I'm folding it into two just so that I can get the midpoint of this fabric. So with my scissors, I'm going to notch it so that connecting the band is going to be easy for me. So I'm going to notch the fabric this way, and I'm going to open it up like this. Now, after opening it up, I'm going to do same thing for my band. I'm going to fold it into two and notch the midpoint. Now that I'm done notching the midpoint, I'm going to place it on my fabric, on the good face of my fabric this way. As you can see, this makes it easy to get the midpoint of my band. I'm sure you know that the measurement of my turban and the measurement of my band is different. That's why we have excess at the end. So I'm going to sew by 1/2 inch down. I'm done sewing by 1/2 inch. Now I'm done sewing by 1/2 inch, and this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. This is what we have. We've connected the band to the base of the turban. So this is what the front looks like. As you can see, this is what it looks like. The next thing I'm going to do is fold my fabric into two. Fold my fabric into two this way. Good face on good face. And I'm going to sew from my band straight down, and I would sew again this way, and then I'll come like this, and then I'll come down, straight down, like a square, straight, just straight stitches. So I'm done sewing from the band down to the body of my turban, of my fabric. As you can see, did you see it? I have sewn it. Now the next thing I want to do is, with my needle and thread, sew loose stitches from my just above my band, just a little above my band. I'm going to sew loose stitches like this. From this point, I'm going to sew loose stitches straight down, like this. Just this way. So while sewing this, you want to ensure that it is tight, that your stitches are tight towards the end, and then you want to tie it properly this way. So as I am tying, I'm going to repeat the process again. As you can see, I just got to the end. I'm going to go back again so that I can have a very firm finishing, firm tying. So I'm just going to repeat it and tie it again. So I'm done tying it, and this is what it looks like, as you can see. So the next thing I want to do now is still sew loose stitches from that top down to almost the band. So I'm going to be stopping here. I'm not going to be getting to my band. This is just to give my turban that curve that I want. I don't want it to be all that long. So I'm going to sew loose stitches this way, and I'm going to stop on the body of the turban. I'm not going to go down to my band. So when I sew it, I will tie it, and then I will repeat the process again so that my stitches can be firm. So I'm going to tie it again. So I am done tying, and this is what we have. Our turban is ready. So if you don't know how to make a pleated turban, this is it. A simple pleated turban, this is it. And you can also play around the front and add stuffs and embellishments and even little bands, but this is just a simple pleated turban. Now let's get right to making the fascinator that we're going to add to this turban. Here I already have my millinery wire covered up with my bias. I'm going to make a video on how you can cover this up. I do not intend to make this video lengthy, and that's why I just had to do this. But I'm going to do a follow-up video on how you can cover up your millinery wire. All right, so I have this extra piece of lace that is left. I am just going to spread it around and place my millinery wire on it. This is to create that simple fascinator using this beautiful lace. So I'm going to place my millinery wire on it, and then I'm just going to wrap the lace around it from all sides to the middle, just how I am doing it. I'm going to be picking up all the sides and tying it at the middle like this. This is more like trying to pack your hair to the middle. So this is what I am doing with my millinery wire inside. I want to create a change in the original style. I want my millinery wire to be curved, so I am going to hold it tighter. I'm going to hold it tighter. So the tighter you hold your fabric, the more curvy your fascinator is going to look like. So I want it this way, but if you want a straight fascinator, you can just let it be loose. All right, so I'm going to be using my thread to tie the lace, tie it around the lace so that it is firm. So I have my thread doubled up already, so I'm going to tie it, go around it and tie it to ensure that it is very firm, as you can see. So I'm going to do this over and over until I am sure that I have a tight and a firm grip on my fascinator. So I am done, and I have tied it, and I'm tying it again. So after tying your fascinator this way, the next thing you want to do is cut out the excess fabric. So I'm just going to cut out with my scissors. This is what I have. This is how it looks. I like it this way. I'm going to cut out the excess fabric from my fascinator. After cutting it out, this is what we have. So now let's get right into making the other things that are going to be on this fascinator. Now I'm going to keep this aside and get my satin. So this satin fabric, I have a measurement of I have a measurement of 60 inches. Yes, 60 inches long. So yours can be shorter depending on how you want it to be. Remember, you are the boss, so you can play around how you want to. So it's 60 inches long, and the the width is 6 inches. So it is 6 by 60 inches. Okay, 6 by 60 inches. What I'm going to do next is good face facing good face. I'm going to fold this into two and sew straight down by half an inch. I'm going to sew all the way down to the end. Also, I have three pieces cut out. Also, I have three pieces of fabric cut out. The measurement is 12 inches by 6 inches, and they are in three. I'm going to fold them also into two, good face facing good face like this, and I'm going to sew by half an inch all three pieces. I'm going to sew this also by half an inch, good face facing good face. I'm going to turn this and sew by 1/2 inch. And then after sewing, once I sew it, I'm done sewing here. After sewing, the next thing I want to do is turn them inside out to reveal the good face. So I'm turning them inside out, all my fabrics. I'm turning them inside out. Once I'm done turning them inside out, the next thing I want to do next is to trim the edges. I'm done trimming the edges. I'm just going to insert my crinoline. I'm really sorry I did not introduce this crinoline earlier, but I'll be using this crinoline. You can use whatever crinoline you have, but I have this big one, so I'm going to be using it. I am inserting a safety pin into it. This is so that the crinoline can pass through my fabric easily. I folded this crinoline into two, as you can see. I folded it this way into two so that it can be thick for me the way I want it. So if you're using a thin crinoline, you can double it. I'm going to be inserting my safety pin into my fabric this way so that the crinoline can pass. And once I get the crinoline into it, I will cut it off. After cutting it off, I am going to sew both ends of the fabric with the crinoline inside it. So I'm going to sew like this. I'll do same for all three fabrics. I'm done sewing. Now this is what we have after sewing, and I want to attach this to my fascinator. We're going to attach this to my fascinator. The initial look, I want to create a change, so I don't want it to outrightly be like what we have there. So I'm just going to, this is what it is on the picture, but I want a tweak to it. I want to create my own designs. So if you would want it the way it is on the picture, you can do it that way. But for me, I'm just going to slightly bend my fabric this way. Yeah, I'm going to bend it this way, and with my needle and thread, I'm going to tack it neatly. This is just me creating my own design. Remember, you can be creative about it. So you can just play around. There are no rules to these things. So I'm going to tack it neatly. And once I tack it neatly, I'm going to keep it aside. I'm going to keep it aside. This is what we have. And now I'm going to be tying the rest of the fabric to my fascinator, the two others to my fascinator this way. I'm just going to be tying it with my needle and thread. You would want to do this neatly from under, and you want to ensure that you tie them firmly. So once I tie it, this is what we have. I am also going to be connecting the third fabric to the fascinator so that it gives me this design that I want, that I like. You tie this firmly. Ensure that you do it firmly and you do it neatly. So I am just going to tack it. I'm done tacking, and this is what we have. It is really beautiful and I am absolutely in love with it. The next thing we want to do now is to attach our ruffle to this fascinator. Now, there are different ways you can attach ruffles to your work. Originally, you can just put a crinoline into your fabric like this. I'm using the lighter one here. You can put it into your fabric like this way. After putting it into your fabric, you sew the edge of the fabric, both edge of the fabric this way, and cut out the excess crinoline. So you can sew both edge of your fabric and then you can just play around with it. Possibly roll your fabric after sewing both edge. You can roll your fabric, but I'm not going to be doing this. I'm only going to be illustrating. You can roll your fabric whichever way you want using your needle and thread. You can just create an amazing design and place it on your fascinator. But I said I want to create something different, not so distinctly different, but something different. So I only sew one edge of my fabric, and the other edge I left unsewn, right? If that's correct. So I'm just going to be pulling my crinoline lightly. You want to do this lightly so that your crinoline doesn't pull out. So I'm just going to be, once I get to the end, I'm going to sew the edge. I'm done sewing, and this is what we have. We have our ruffles created already. So now I'm going to just join both ends of my fabric together like this, both ends of the fabric, and I'm going to sew. If you have a sewing machine, you can sew it that way, or you can just use your needle and thread. I'm going to be using my needle and thread to tack the ruffles together so that I have a round ruffles. And also, after doing that, I'm just going to arrange it and cover up the sewn parts with my fabric. I'm using my needle and thread. So remember, guys, this is the ruffles. So the ruffles kind of cover up your stitches. So I'm done sewing it, and I want to attach this to my fascinator. So this is what it is going to look like. But I want to just, embellish mine. You can just play around, like I said. So I'm going to be using some embellishment. So I have this embellishment I'm going to be adding, and I'm going to be doing so with my glue gun. I'm just going to add a bit of glue. It's an electric glue gun. So I'm going to be using that to add my glue, and I'm going to be placing it on my fabric this way. Okay, neatly. You want to do this neatly, guys. This glue can be really messy, so you just have to be really careful so that it doesn't get your work messed up. So I'm just going to be doing that, attaching the embellishments with my hot glue to my fascinator. So this is what we have after attaching the embellishments. The next thing we want to do now is to add the ruffles to this fascinator. Now these ruffles, I'm going to be using my needle and thread to just stack it neatly from behind. Okay, I'd use my needle and thread to just stack. I would sew from under firmly. So after sewing, I'm just going to tack around it. I just sew one part. I'm just going to go around, so tack maybe 5 corners, just go around it and sew. So I am done sewing. I had to just make it a little flatter, so while I was stacking, the bump was reducing. So this is what I have after tacking it to my fascinator, and it is really beautiful. I think I really, 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 really love this. So now we'll bring our turban, and we were going to attach this beautiful fascinator to the turban. Okay, so we're going to attach this beautiful fascinator to the turban. Now it is up to you. You can put it up on your mannequin head so that you can know the position at which you are going to place your fascinator on your turban. So for me, I already know where I want it to be. So I am just going to sew round it. Okay, I'm going to place my fascinator, and from under my turban, I'm going to tack it firmly and neatly. I'm just going to sew round my turban. So guys, this is it. This is it. Remember, you can always play around with your work. Okay, you are the boss of it all. So You can decide to add whatever style it is you want to add. Thank you so much, guys, for this tutorial. So once I'm done talking it, I would have something like this. If you found this helpful, kindly like, drop a comment, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel. This would be a huge encouragement and support for me. Thank you so much, guys. I love you, and I will see you in my next video. So I'm just going to go ahead and tack this neatly, after which I would be done.